Today's unSeminary podcast episode is brought to you by Regal Theater Church, the only theater company providing full-service consultation for churches wanting to create dynamic worship services in familiar, culturally relevant venues. The local movie theater, with lots of parking, spacious lobbies, plenty of bathrooms, and a perfect view of the screen from a comfortable seat. Regal Theaters are ideal for church plants and multi-sites. Learn more at regaltheaterchurch.com or call their incredible team at 1-800-792-8244 today.
Welcome to the unSeminary podcast. Are you looking for practical ministry help to drive your ministry further, faster? Have a sinking feeling that your ministry training didn't prepare you for the real world? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others in pursuit of stuff that we wish they had taught in seminary. Buckle up and let's get started with this week's unSeminary podcast.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the unSeminary podcast. My name's Rich, the host around these parts. So glad that you've decided to tune in today. Listen, I know that you're busy this week. I know you've got a lot going on. As we head into this weekend, I'm sure you've got a million things on your mind, and we're just honored that you would take some time out to plug us into your ears, as we like to say, and listen in. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited for today's conversation. We're with Kevin Negaard from Sunnybrook Community Church. This is a fantastic church. Started in the early 60s, but really had a significant turnaround, significant change in the early 2000s. Really became a brand new church at that point, and is one of the fastest growing churches in the country. The fantastic church. Super glad to have you on the show today, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be a great time today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your role at Sunnybrook?
Well, I'm the executive director of the church. I've been here about 3.5 years. Really came from a medical community, so I wasn't. I was involved in the church, but not in a hiring way. Yeah. Never wanted to work in the church. Was actually leading the search committee for the job I'm now doing.
Oh, and I see how it works. Kevin.
That's exactly right. And I did not want the job, and the senior pastor came and said, "Hey, I think you're being called to this, and we need you." And I think mainly we had gone through 10 years of kind of the transition, and knew we were ready to take the next step. And the previous administrators were great, and their strength is probably financial and policies. My strength is more of holding people accountable and being able to, make some changes. So that's kind of what they were looking for, and thought I had the right give us so here I am, and it's been an incredible blessing.
Cool. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about Sunnybrook? Give us a sense of kind of the culture there. Give us a sense of, so if people were to walk into Sunnybrook this weekend, what would they experience?
They would experience a lot of blue jeans. If you're wearing a tie, we know you're a visitor. There is coffee all over the place. We are coming up at Thanksgiving. Will be a year in our new auditorium, and there's cup holders on every seat. So that's really who we are. Incredibly welcoming. Incredible worship. Gospel teaching. We're in a series called Shattered, and about the hurts in life, and just so practical but biblically based, and ton of kids, little kids running all over the place, and so plenty of energy, plenty of excitement, incredibly welcoming. We want to meet people where they are and lead them down their path of growth, spiritual development.
Very cool. Well, I loved in your intro where you talked a little bit about, hey, as a role executive director, one of my strengths is holding people accountable. Even in our early kind of friendship here, you seem like such a friendly guy, nice guy. We'd love to talk about that today, because I think sometimes when people think about how do we be good stewards or, kind of manage our time and our resources well, sometimes they can picture a person that's like, gosh, they're kind of a killjoy, which you're definitely not that. So why don't we talk a little bit about that today? In your role as executive director, how is it that you're helping your team manage resources and, your time and that sort of thing well?
I think I keep going back to, we're a $2.3 million budget. Every penny is given to us. And so we need to be incredibly good stewards of that financially. Right. But so much of our budget is people. And so we need to be incredibly good stewards of our time as well. So coming into this setting out of the business world where I was in medicine and running a practice of orthopedic surgeons and neurosurgeons, who are go, and, just at times too much that way and trying to find that balance. But coming to the church, I had no idea. So one of the first things I did was just to the full-time staff, tell me what you do. Tell me how your day works. Tell me how your week works. Write out your hours and so on and so forth. And I was surprised of the 9 full-time people at that point in time. One of them put down 40 hours. Everybody else was less than 40 hours. So for me, it was like, holy cow, there's a disconnect here, and we got to figure this thing out. And that's really where we started with, where are you at, and then what is our expectation?
I love what you said there at the beginning, just to underline that a little bit. I think sometimes we can see staff cost. We manage our the googly eyes budget, I like to call it, but a lot of times that's really insignificant in comparison to the money we spend on staff, and how we manage our staff time is significant. I know on the kind of googly eye side of things, even just this week, I was out with some of our staff, and I took them out for lunch, and people were like, "Oh, thank you so much." And I said, "Listen, don't thank me. Thank the good people who tithe here at our church.
Yeah.
They were the ones who provided lunch today, and we were able to do that, and that was a blessing because of that." But then, even more so, the time for us all to be away is significant. So starting with tracking, how did you actually do that? How did you, kind of get a sense of what that looked like?
Yeah, so I just said, I have no idea what your job is, or what you're
Right.
doing, or when you're here, and so on and so forth. And so just write it down. Tell me what your typical week is. So it wasn't me assuming. And so when I could go back to them and say, you're working 38 hours? They had completed that. It wasn't me assuming or anything like that. So I got that data, and then really set the standard. Here's the deal: is if you're full-time here, you're going to create a schedule, a seasonal schedule, that's 44 hours a week. Now, on Sunday, everybody's going to worship 1 hour, unless you're tech or the senior pastor preaching. But, if you're in children's ministry, we expect you to get out of there and go to one of the services. So, those can count. You can count hours that you're at home studying. You can count hours that you meet people, but you're going to give me a schedule. And then I'm going to hold you accountable to that schedule. And it's incredibly important to me that if you say you're going to be here at 9 o'clock, you're here at 9 o'clock. You're setting your own schedule. So the only thing I'm asking of you is to do what you've told me you're going to do.
That's powerful. That's, because you're not coming at it from hey, I'm telling you what to do. You're asking people to define ahead of time.
Right.
How was that received by your folks?
Well, I think one of the things that we're very fortunate is we're financially blessed right now. And so as we were increasing expectations, we could increase benefits or little things within the culture to do that. Because ultimately I want to get where I can recruit and retain anybody. It doesn't matter what setting they are in. I'm going to be able to go out and get them and pay them close enough financially to what maybe they were making in the business world, and then to be able to have a benefit package and everything else that will be able to retain them as well. So as we were increasing expectations, we added some benefits. I think one of the early things we did is we just called it ministry enhancement money. I'm going to give you $100 a month above your salary, and that is for cell phone, taking somebody out. Do I have to get a new shirt because of whatever? I got to get a babysitter. Whatever. I don't want to hear any of that. This is $100. You don't have to report it back to me, but it takes all of those incidentals that you can just get tied up in time of, well, should I do this? Should I not do this? In those arguments. And we want our people's time focused on ministry.
Now, how did you ensure that people? So one thing I think the total hours thing I appreciate about you pushing that issue is I think sometimes ministry leaders can oscillate between. It's easy to oscillate between two sides of it. Either there's like workaholism, where it's like you become so wrapped up in what you do, you define who you are, because there's a little bit of a bottomless pit. At the end of the day, we're trying to reach a world that's lost, and it's like, well, when is that done? It's not done at Friday at 4:00. But on the other side, because there's some flexibility in there can be a temptation to say, you know what, I'm just going to come in an hour later this week, and you do that over 6 weeks, and before you know it, you're coming in at noon, and things can get a little bit lax. So it's not just about filling hours. How did you ensure that how people are filling those hours well? What did you do on that front?
Well, I think it is. I meet with the staff on a weekly basis, and a lot of it is one-on-one, and I'm constantly. I follow John Gordon and Mark Miller a lot, and handing out things that they can do from practical things. But I think we were kind of a traditional church where we counted attendance, but in other ministries it would be, we're about spiritual development. And I'm like, no, we have to be about numbers, because every number represents a life that's going to heaven or hell. And so not that that's necessarily the only thing, and we have to be incredibly concerned about spiritual development. But don't get away from that, because that's a very good objective measure to say, you're doing. So it's not only the numbers, but it's what are you doing? Tell me what you're doing in your ministry. What have you changed? So we tell our people, you have to be constant tinkerers. We do not want the same program year after year, and really semester to semester. So tinker with it. So come and I'm going to ask you, what tinkers have you made? What changes have you made? What are you doing? And then you share that with me. So I think we're looking at the production side as well, which for a lot of churches and student ministry guys, they're like, don't tell me about numbers, it's about spiritual development. Yes. And it has to be both.
Right.
But the numbers are the one objective thing. And we have now gotten staff, and it's taken for some 3 years to understand the importance of it. Our student ministry, for the first time ever, when we started this ministry season, called every kid who came last year who wasn't coming this year to find out, is there something going on in your family? Is it just too crazy? You're in a new sport, whatever it may be. But we found out, and you know what? A lot of those kids, over half, they said, came back because someone reached out to them and just said, and some said, I can't, I got, I'm working now, or whatever the case may be. But, every one of those numbers is a person, and we need to understand that.
Absolutely. I love what the folks at New Spring say. They say every number has a name, every name has a story, every story matters to God. And the reality of it is that obviously it's not just all about the aggregate numbers, but the thing I appreciate you doing is trying to rebalance some of that and saying, hey, you know what, we need to worry about those things, for sure. No, that's very cool. Now, what about on, I'm sure there was some pushback, right? I'm sure, it sounds like everything is sunny at Sunnybrook. But what, how did you deal with that as a, leader who's trying to lead kind of a bit of a change management in an area that can sometimes be perceived like, oh, Kevin's just the numbers guy. How did you lead through that process?
Well, one is I was involved in their ministries. I would, I'd come on Wednesday night. I would ask them. I was involved in their lives, wanting to know that. So one of the things, we've done a bunch of things, I think, to see that human side. So we thought breaking bread together once a week was really important for staff. And they thought about that for years and years, but they could never get everybody to go because someone would pick a expensive restaurant or, whatever the case may be. So what we did is twice a month, we're going every week, twice a month, we're giving you a $5 Chick-fil-A card. Okay, and we're going to Chick-fil-A. Now you can't say I don't have money because for $2, you can get a meal there or whatever. Yeah. And it's been very good. We have, because you said it earlier about the workaholic, and this is who I am. I have a tendency that was a part of my life before. So we give everybody, you get a half-day spiritual retreat. We give you $10 to get, Starbucks, a meal, and go and get off here.
How often is that?
Once a month. Once a month.
That's great.
They Fantastic. Get that. We go off-site for team retreats quarterly. For sure, if not more. We have a nice continuing education budget for them. We do a lot of, like at St. Patrick's Day, we handed out $100 bills to full-time people, give a little green. And so we're constantly trying to do those little things like that. Because again, I think if we're going to, we're not looking for seminary people. That's why when, I got the email from him, like, oh, this is my guy. We believe there's some of that, but for a lot of people, we want that incredible calling. And for, our children's ministry guy, who's a very successful salesperson, met with me and said, hey, I want to get into ministry sometime. And I think you can be our children's ministry director. He goes, I love kids, but I don't want to roll around with kids 8 hours. And I'm like, if you do, I'm going to fire you.
Yes, exactly.
You are the CEO of this little business under this big entity. Yes. And so you get bonuses in the business world based on merit and doing great things. So we've tried to implement a lot of those things along the way.
Very interesting. Well, is there anything else? This has been interesting. Is there anything else you want to share, but kind of before we shift into the next part of the show?
I just think you need to be really firm with your expectations, and that was clear from the beginning. They hired me because of who I am and how I was, we're going to hold people accountable and we were going to be fully employed. And we are a hard-working staff. And that's what I tell when we're looking to hire is this is who we are. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's helped us be able to grow and expand. And I think God's blessing us. But this is who we are. And so don't come in thinking, oh, you're going to soften me or you're going to change this or not. That's not going to happen. We're going to be a hard-working staff who we're going to do things for people. We're going to do merit raises. We're going to do bonuses, based on what you're doing. And we are going to talk when the expectation isn't being met. Because part of it may be you are getting burnt out, there's something going on, and we want to help with that. It's not like we're going to talk and then you're gone. It is, we're going to talk, find out what the cause is, and then what we can do to help you. And sometimes that help is moving on to another position at a different location.
Now, what through kind of increasing expectations, what have the results been at the church? Like, what from a growth point of view and all that, have you been able to see, like, okay, as we kind of invest more and focus more on these staff issues, have been able to see that translate into life change and more connection as a church?
Yeah, absolutely. I think where we were very probably traditional church, if we ran our ministry seasons were the same as the school year seasons, and I'm like, that may be the dumbest thing in the world, because that's when kids are the busiest. So we have now implemented, like, on the 1 or 2 weeks of Christmas break. So our children's ministry, I said, those kids are at home, but there's still a lot of moms and dads who are working. So they're looking for something to do with their kids during that time. So the 2 days before Christmas this past year, we did a camp called Make It, Take It, and kids came in and made Christmas presents for their parents. So it's a 3-hour, it's all morning. So parents can drop them off and go to work, or they can go shopping, or whatever the case may do. We had 50 kids. Then we ran Ninja Warrior camp, and we had kids running throughout church. We had blow-ups. I mean, it was crazy. There's 100 kids.
Wow, that's very cool.
But kids are available then. Why are we not providing opportunities at that point in time?
Right. Very cool.
We hired somebody to do full-time sports ministry, because parents will pay anything for their kids to go to camp. So let's create all of these opportunities in camps that we're teaching leadership points that may be Christian. It doesn't have to be in-your-face Christianity, but our leaders and the people, our guest speakers, are all coming from a faith-based background. And kids go home with a booklet of here's what they're talking about, here's the leadership points. So we're very much, we can't be this traditional, we got to look at these other times and provide opportunities to touch people.
This is the unSeminary podcast. Stuff you wish they taught in seminary.
All right, well, we're going to jump into the lightning round, that part of the episode where we ask the similar questions of people who've been on the show. Today, we're super excited to have Kevin Negaard with us from Sunnybrook Community Church. You really should be following this church if you're not already. They're doing some fascinating things. It's been a great conversation today. Well, Kevin, what is a piece of technology or an online resource that you've been using recently that's been helping you?
Yeah, you're asking me, and I'm the most untechy guy.
Nice. Come on.
I'm horrible, but I've been taking some ex-pastor classes.
Okay, great.
That's been beneficial.
Great site.
I love following John Gordon and Mark Miller. I just think they're practical. And a lot of the things, especially when we think about productivity and time and that type of thing, they're very helpful in those things, and I can easily pass that on to staff. So unfortunately, that's about all my technology did.
No, come on, that's great. How about a book? Have you read any books in the last 6 months that have had an impact on your ministry and thinking?
Well, I love Lead for God's Sake. I'm not a very smart guy, so I like to read simple books and parables. And again, Mark Miller and John Gordon and those type of things. But Lead for God's Sakes we just did with a group of men. And then we took it to a bigger group, and now getting it into the colleges a little bit. That's really kind of my strength, or kind of the area I'd like to read in, is the parables. Mike Matheny, we'll talk more about him. The Cardinals manager wrote the Matheny Manifesto, and just basic stuff, but so down to earth, and that's really good. And then we are, as a staff, reading. I'm going to be in trouble here. It is Strengthening the Soul of Your Leadership. So
Ruth Haley Barton's book. That's a fantastic book.
We're doing that on a weekly basis, and that's been very good.
That's very good. That's a great book. We use that in our first 90 days at our church with our staff. That's a great book for sure. Yeah, that's fantastic. What's another ministry you're looking to that's kind of inspiring you these days?
Well, I Willow Creek, I think, is always cutting and doing something else. God has brought a gentleman by the name of Jake Sullivan into my life. His ministry is Acts 2 Collection. He's a college Division I all-conference basketball player who just felt this tug on his life for Christ, and then kind of got bored and said, God, there's got to be more. I'm an adrenaline junkie. And God said, go to the nations. So he goes to Ghana, and now he feels a call to go to Chad. And just his thinking through how to do ministry internationally and how to reach people. And the guy just, he's one of those guys who every day I want my life lived for Christ, dependent on Christ. He loves the moments where, God, if you don't show up here, I don't know if I'm getting out of here. And so he makes me incredibly uncomfortable, which I need. So it's Acts 2 collective, and I think he's doing some great things.
Very cool. If you could get 15 minutes with any leader alive today, who would you want to get that with and why?
Well, I would like Mike Matheny. I'm a baseball junkie, even though you abused me about the Cubs. The first thing you said to me, Cardinals guy. Mike is the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, was a professional baseball player, but never coached or managed at any level other than his son's Little League coach, and then became the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals and had incredible success. But is a man of faith. Faith is a very big part of their team and their culture, and I am so curious of how you can build that in a professional sport that just seems so anti, faith-based or that type of thing. But they have an incredible culture. They get rid of players no matter their talent if they don't fit their culture, and just to have the guts to do that. And so I'd love to spend some time with him.
Very cool. Nice. Well, I'm sure you keep busy when you're at Sunnybrook, a lot going on. But when you want to kind of kick back and have some fun, just relax a little bit. What do you do in your personal life just to have fun?
Yeah, I like to run.
Nice.
It's a good time. It's probably more shuffling than running, but I'm still getting out there.
Hey, that's good, man. That's good.
For me to think. I volunteer coach at our local college baseball, and just being around college kids is exciting, and the head coach is a great guy. And then, for the past 2 years, I've spent a lot of time, raised $1 million to build a Miracle Field complex in Sioux City, which is a baseball field and playground designed for kids with disabilities. And
very cool. So
it's just been inspiring, met a ton of great people, and then we just opened in September, and to see the kids and their families, it's been an incredible experience.
That's very cool.
Got to keep busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kevin, I really appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much for taking time out from your schedule to be with us. If people want to get in touch with you or with Sunnybrook, how can they do that? What's the best way for them to do that?
Probably just hit me up on email, and it's Kevin N. at sunnybrookchurch.org.
Cool. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's unSeminary podcast. Don't be shy. We'd love to connect. Check out unSeminary inbox. You can sign up at unSeminary.com, and we'll send you helpful training resources every week. Plus, you'll gain immediate access to our exclusive members area with tons of resources you can use. Connect with Rich on Twitter at Rich Birch or through email, rich@unseminary.com. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode at unseminary.com. It includes links to what we talked about today and more. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Did you enjoy today's episode? Drop by iTunes and leave a review. Thanks again for tuning in to this week's unSeminary podcast. Join us next week when we'll learn more stuff we wish they taught in seminary.